Don't give up. I know you're inclined to and you're thinking about it. And you're kind of like, that's it, that's enough. I'm giving up. I can never amount to anything. Yet. You haven't possibly amounted to something significant enough to produce some change that looks good or, sufficient. Yet. Don't give up. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about what I believe we need to be doing, although many of us constantly want to give up. But I will trust that by the end of this video, you're going to discover that you don't have to give up. You just have to keep going until everything eventually clicks together and makes sense. And for that reason, I'm going to share a lot of my story too. So let's do this. Right, if you landed on my side of the internet, I talk a lot about how childhood trauma creates people out of us that are crippled. We can't really do life properly. Basically, I talk about how narcissistic parents shape us and traumatize us in a way where we have to spend most of our lives trying to recover from the trauma. And most of us don't even consciously try to recover. We just exit our childhoods and then just try to cope with life. And life feels constantly unbearable. And we just kind of do life. We're just like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to get through this. Another day, whatever. We have very little aspirations and very little hope that life will get better. At the same time, so many of us raised in environments that were very hostile and emotionally violent. We created fantasies about the future. Right? We were sitting there being miserable, feeling unloved, unseen, blah, 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 all the things. But there was a part of us that was like, you know what, this is really horrible. I can't really sit with this too much. Let me just imagine that one day, and the number one fantasy of the one day is one day I'm going to find love, right? That was at least for me. And one day, whatever, one day I'm going to be famous, one day I'm going to be rich, one day I'm going to be beautiful, one day I'm going to be whatever. But we create this fantasy of one day I'm going to, right, when we're kids. And that fantasy carries us through our entire lives. And what happens is when we do turn into adults, that fantasy rarely becomes true. Because all this time, we were just dreaming about creating that, but we were rarely acting toward it. And the reason isn't necessarily because we weren't making any efforts, because some of us may have been making efforts. But the reason is that we probably sabotaged those efforts, even if we made them. And also in the process of trying to achieve something big, since we fundamentally hate ourselves and don't believe to be good enough for anything, it's really hard to succeed, when you hate yourself. It's really hard to succeed. I'll never forget, I had this client, he would say to me that when he was working out, he was calling himself horrible names. And I found it surprising that he was trying to motivate himself by calling himself a piece of shit. I was like, that is horrible. That is next level horrible. But when I think about it, the further I think about things like that, in reality, most of us talk to ourselves in such a way, to an extent. Just maybe not as consciously as he was doing it, but if you think about yourself, when you make a mistake, what's the first thing that you do? You're like, I should have known. I messed it up. I always mess it up. I'm a loser. I'm a failure. I'll never love, all these things. And if there's one thing that became very clear to me once I embarked on my own proper healing journey, was the way I showed up for myself and the way I responded to the things that were happening to me or I was doing and there were mistakes was so drastically different. And then I realized that I was practically this whole time abusing myself, but then expecting myself to succeed. And that reminded me of what my dad was doing. I remember once I saw this picture, there's this like child with wings on, and you have like a parent clipping all those wings, right? That's what narcissistic parents do to you. They clip the wings and then they're like, why don't you fly? Why aren't you flying like your cousin is flying, your sister is flying? Why aren't you a normal flying kid? And you're like, you just cut them all off. They're like, me? You're a loser. You're a loser. This is all your fault. I didn't do anything. I was just trying to help you because you're a loser or you're a failure or you're never amount to anything if I don't help you. You should be grateful, if anything, that I was there, because if not, you would have done even worse. And I think most of us would have done much more in our lives if we didn't have these parents, which is tragic to think because we needed them to survive. But emotionally, the damage that is done isn't just what is happening in the moment, right? It's what continues to happen indefinitely unless we address it and unless we heal. Meaning that for all the years that we went through that abuse, even when we leave the parents, they're not alive anymore, we go no contact, we do all the things, these parents will still thrive in our inner system and talk to us. The way we see ourselves, the way we think about ourselves, the way we talk to ourselves, the things we believe are possible for us and not. All of these things have been dictated by how that person, how little they cared about your emotional world. And many of you, maybe in a moment in your life where you're looking back and you're like, I know my mom was horrible to me at times, but I was a difficult child. Or you're thinking, I know she was hard with me, but she had a difficult childhood. Oh, that's I hate that. I hate that approach when we are trying to understand our abusers before we comprehend and validate the abuse that happened to us. That is just next level self-gaslighting. Absolutely hate it. Don't do it. So what we do is we sit around and think it was our fault for being treated the way that we were. And so we give these people continuously the permission to hurt us, no matter how old we were. And we still are. So we're trying to do life now, and we're like, well, listen, nothing so tragic happened, right? Just one time my mom did, and then you enter like, it's a really horrible thing. If you were to say it out loud, people would be like, you know? And now I notice that I have some stories where if I just say something, I'll just say it casually, my dad did this, and people are like, and I'm like, yeah, that is, yeah, I get it. But, and you will see how bad the things that were happening to you were, but even if they were just normalized at your home, right? The normalized things. There was this girl on TikTok, she was sharing how every morning her mom would preemptively punish her for the day. So she would wake her up early, take her to her father to slap her however many times. So, because she would definitely be naughty when she went to school, and so she was preemptively punishing her. And that, for that girl, was normal. But obviously, if you hear it, you're like, what? I thought my mom was crazy. I thought So we don't comprehend it when it's happening. So a lot of you adults are sitting here now and going like, well, what is wrong with me? Why am I like this? Why am I an overthinker? Why do I have so much stress? Why do I have crippling anxiety? Why am I sabotaging myself? Why am I avoiding relationships? Why am I addicted? Why am I? You keep blaming yourself. Nothing so bad happened. I had everything. I had a home, I had food, I had shoes, And that is the confusing part of having such a childhood that you were provided in, or think you were. But really, emotionally, you were either neglected or brutally and unnecessarily abused, right? And that is our problem. That when we don't validate what happened to us, all of that abuse, when we're trying to figure ourselves out and trying to fix ourselves and put ourselves into another path than the one that we've been predetermined to walk on, the path of self-destruction, because a person who is raised by somebody who makes them feel fundamentally unworthy and ashamed to be alive, that person will do anything and everything in their power to destroy themselves. I used to say, I don't used to say, I used to self-destruct with passion. That's how I describe myself. I self-destructed. I was passionate about self-destruction. It wasn't just like, whatever, I would do a silly thing here and there. It's like, it was really focused self-destruct, because if you have a self that you hate and you blame for how flawed she is, obviously you're not going to be nice to her. So what do we have here? You coming here today, you want to give up. Life's horrible. You can never amount to anything. You're always constantly stuck. You think it's your fault. People are telling you, don't blame your parents. And you're like, oh, sure, I shouldn't blame my parents. I'm 30, I'm 40, I'm 50. I shouldn't blame my parents. But here I am. I see your emails and I see your comments. However old you are, your parents are still torturing you. but you still don't think it's their fault. Or maybe some of you create another fantasy. When they die, I'll be free. And when they die, you realize that they still live here forever. They're going to live here forever. Unless we replace them. Unless we reparent ourselves so much that it will feel like these people never happened to us. To an extent, I'm not going to promise you that reparenting will make you, there's going to be things that are going to be there. But if you think about the image of your life now, if you were to make a drawing of the areas of your life or what it looks like, and it's just like this black thing or just chaos everywhere, healing will tidy this up so much more. Maybe you won't become, though, like a person that has never had trauma. But who you will become after healing is a person who overcame their trauma. And that person who overcame the trauma is the most resilient person that exists. Because not only you coped through the trauma, you adapted, albeit in many ways that are now detrimental, which in my case, self-destruction, or falling in love, or limerence, or any sort of addiction, right? Any sort of thing that you were doing just to cope, that then became a lifelong way of just existing through that, maladaptive daydreaming. There's so many things that we did in order to survive those environments that then we bring them into adulthood. And the other reason why our life is not going anywhere, because we're stuck. We have the hope that one day these things will happen, but we don't have the skills to make them happen. Because not only we're traumatized and we hate ourselves, we probably don't have a good relationship with discipline. We don't know how to be consistent. We don't know how to show up. We may have all these ways of trying to cope with discomfort that are detrimental, and we don't know how to sit through things long enough until they produce change. So if you're trying to give up, if you're thinking, that's it, I'm giving up, I want you to first think about this. What are you giving up? Are you giving up trying on yourself? Are you giving up trying to survive? Are you giving up trying to pursue this business that you're trying to build? Or are you trying to give up finding a better job? Are you trying to give up finishing your degree? What are you trying to give up? What is the thing? But giving up in general, not going to be an option. I'm going to tell you why. Because the fact that you survived all of what you survived means that you're able to do much more. And you survived childhood trauma. You survived a narcissistic parent hating on you while you were thinking they were going to protect you. That is core. That's like the worst, right? A narcissistic parent, in my opinion, produces an injury like no other parent. And they produce that injury so early on that it becomes the foundation upon we built our characters. So we built a character upon somebody who was looking at us with disgust. Isn't that amazing? So we built that character already thinking, I'm disgusting, I'm unworthy, I don't deserve to be loved, I should be ashamed of myself. All these nice things were the building blocks of what created you. Yet, thinking and believing all this horrible stuff, you still managed to survive. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Can you believe that even though you believed all these things about yourself, that's how you build a character. You build a personality based on hatred and shame, toxic shame. Yet something in you was like, you know what? I'm going to get us to survive. Somehow we're going to survive this. And that part of you was like, I'm going to do what I can, right? I'm not promising that we're going to do it in the best way. Let's do whatever we can, but we are going to survive it. And now here you are, you survived it. These people are out of the way, hopefully. Hopefully you're not around them. Hopefully they're not actively part of your life. And you're like, I'm going to give up. What are you going to give up? Are you kidding me? We didn't come this far to only make it this far. So first of all, you're going to think about this. What in your life now is the most overwhelming area? Is it your finances, your mental health, housing situation, job, whatever? If everything is messed up, I get you, I was there. And that's absolutely normal based on what happened to you for life to be found in a place where you're like, okay, this is a mess right now. I need you to pick one area that is the most important. And in my opinion, the most important area we have to start on, the foundational area, is going to be your mental health. If you're struggling, if your mental health is just not doing well, if you're not feeling well, if you're overwhelmed all the time, very anxious, you're triggered all the time, take some time and do some healing work. Do healing work. This is going to change your life. But when I say healing work, I mean, it sounds very broad. Obviously, I say it because I teach it. I'll tell you what I mean. Healing work, when I did healing work, was because I wanted to change my life. I was like, I'm really stuck. I'm realizing something is off. And I sat down and I started finding, what did I believe about myself? What did I believe about what I can achieve? Because I was like, I want to do this, I want to do this. And then I started questioning, what do I really believe about these things? And I started observing my thoughts and I started realizing, oh no, I believe that, whatever. And then I realized if I want to go from A to B, I have to believe something different. And for the most part, what I believed was pretty horrible stuff. So I started digging through my past of where all these things came about so that I could change those beliefs. And by changing those beliefs, I would finally believe something else so that I would finally have a better life. In short, that's what I did. And I did it for about 3 months. I was like, all the time. I was just constantly breaking down things, doing inner child work, doing parts work. I was doing all the things because I was like, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. I am done being so stuck. I need to figure out something. And if there's something that, something about me is like, I will try and solve a problem until it's unsolvable. Like I will never give up on a problem. Even if I fail 1,000 times, and I'm pretty sure you're the same because you're still here. That's what we do. We problem solve our entire lives. Hence, we are alive, even though we probably, did a lot of crazy stuff. But what I want you to do is this. The focus of this is this. It's not just, I'm going to change my beliefs. It's this. First of all, sit down with the fact and ask yourself, do I believe I'm worthy to have the life that I want? Do I believe I'm a worthy person? If you had narcissistic parents, chances are you don't think you're worthy. So we're gonna start there. Your journey will be this. How do I convince myself that I'm worthy? Again. Because just how do I heal myself may not feel so like it resonates, right? The path would be, how do I figure out how to make myself believe that she's worthy? And for you, the solution would be this. To make myself feel worthy, I have to figure out when she learned she was unworthy. And then in these moments that she learned she was unworthy, I'm going to have to teach her that she's actually worthy. That is the path of healing. It's a journey back to worth, right? In Heal, I think it's the final session or one before. That's how it concludes. That's how a healing journey concludes. We go back to reclaiming not only our worth, but generational worth. But to get to the place where you can sit down and be like, wait a minute, I feel it now. You have to go through a journey of unlearning everything your childhood taught you. And if you had a narcissistic parent, they taught you all the bad stuff, which are not true. Unworthy, not good enough, unlovable. You have to always perform. You have to be a people pleaser now. You have to just orient your attention to others. It's never about you. Your happiness and your well-being was never on the table. And paradoxically now, most of us, all we try to do is be happy. But we're like, how can I make an unworthy self happy? It's going to be hard. We may try or pretend we're trying. But when we deep inside hate ourselves and don't think we're worthy of the life that we deserve, or even of good things in general, we're going to sabotage it. So if you're thinking about giving up, don't. Give yourself one more opportunity. But this time, sit with it long enough for it to work. Don't just do like, I'm going to journal for 2 nights. Oh, my life didn't change. That's me, right? That's me when I'm like, I'm going to be eating better for a few days. And then I look at the scale 2 days later, I'm like, it's still here? Obviously, right? So we just sometimes think emotional change should be faster. And sometimes, admittedly, it is. But if you're trying to reparent yourself, you need a few interventions, right? Heal Now is a 4-week journey back to worth, right? So it's like I've planned it in a way where it gives you a little bit more space and it's a very clear path where we're going. But you're going through a lot of sessions to get to that worth. It's not like we can't just do it in one session. We have to revisit everything. We have to revisit your mother wound, your father wound, the relationship you have with others, your self-hatred. We have to address many things before we get to our worth. So give it one more chance. Give yourself one more chance. And sit down with the important stuff. Sit down with the beliefs that are holding you back, that you know you have about yourself. You believe pretty horrible things about yourself. And although we're like, oh, they're unconscious beliefs, most of us know them. Like, most of us know because we keep telling ourselves those things. And we say ourselves those things whenever things go bad, instead of being like, oh, that's a shame. Or like, what did you expect? You are so-and-so, right? The secret to finding out what to heal or how it hurts is to listen to yourself. It's all in the way that you speak to yourself. Because that way that you speak to yourself, that inner critic, which again has to be revisited, and it is in Heal, and you will have to do it as well. When you're listening to how you're talking to yourself, it's how you were spoken to. And that needs to change. So if you do the work, this inner landscape, if you reparent yourself nicely enough with patience, the inner landscape will shift from a hostile, aggressive, mean, horrible place into a loving place that at least is making an effort for you. Right? You won't always get it right. You will disappoint yourself. You will make mistakes. You will not know how to handle situations, whatever. There's going to be, though, an effort to make things better. So instead of now looking at the wall in front of you and just banging your head on that wall and saying, it's your fault we can't get through this wall, it's your fault, to just put a mirror on that wall and look at yourself and ask, what happened to me that made me be the person that I am today? What brought me here? What are the real blocks that are built through this wall? They're not mine. I mean, eventually they are mine, but I didn't plant them there. Your wall that is in front of you is made out of blocks. And these blocks are internal wounds and inner children stuck in time that are blocking your way for more. But they don't have to be blocking if you sit with them and if you work with them and if you reparent them. But if you just let them there, you just keep banging yourself on the wall, blaming yourself for what happened to you and how you've adapted to what happened to you. So we have to bring it back like that and then take on the responsibility and go out and live our lives. Because we've wasted too much of our lives already, wouldn't you think? We've wasted too much time trying to catch up. Let's not waste any more. Okay? So don't give up. I'll see you soon.